Travel educates, and watching car review videos does too. We traveled to China to gather our first driving impressions of the GWM ORA 07. Of course, here in the video, we have these first impressions and all the information. I'd be really thrilled if you could stay here at Educational TV, presented in vibrant color and full, lively action. Let's get started. ORA, with the exclamation point inside the oval emblem, is a product line from the Chinese manufacturer GWM Great Wall Motors. In Germany, the Emil Frey Group actively markets not only ORA electric cars, but also, prominently, the Way product line's innovative plug-in hybrid SUVs to environmentally conscious consumers. In China, GWM Great Wall Motors offers a considerably larger range. There's the SUV brand Haval, there's the second SUV brand Tank, with a slightly more rugged appearance, and pickups from the brand Por. Some of these cars are also exported to other countries, to Africa, to Australia, for example. In Germany, it's both Way and ORA brands. ORA started off with the GWM ORA 03 model, formerly known as Funky Cat. This is an offering in the compact segment. And the ORA 07 aims to carry the unique ORA design, the ORA philosophy, into the mid-range segment. And he achieves that with a design that might not be immediately to everyone's liking right away, but is certainly quite interesting and intriguing. You might casually say, it looks like a shrunken Panamera, and here you have Porsche, their Bentley styling elements. But of course, he indeed does faithfully follow what sets the ORA design distinctly apart, beginning with the 03 model. We don't have an aggressive front end with pointed headlights, but rather round main headlights, of course, with LED technology. This uniquely curved front is genuinely possible because it represents an innovative electric car, right? So, we don't need to have any sort of high-rising front here to accommodate pedestrian safety with an internal combustion engine. That's somewhat akin to Porsche-esque. Let's simply go ahead and call it that, shall we? The 07 has a different platform than the ORA 03. It's considerably larger at 4.87 meters in length. He's exactly 6 feet 1 inch wide and precisely 4 feet 11 inches high. And in fact, the unique design of the car's shape makes this particular size not seem so bulky or overwhelming at all. The 07 is a competitor, for instance, to the Hyundai Ioniq 6 or even the VW ID.7. And of course, in this list, when we talk about electric cars, one cannot be left out, the Tesla Model 3, which is naturally also a competitor. Here, we can clearly see red brake calipers peeking through, and they strongly signify that we indeed have got the GT variant. I'll soon discuss the various engine options available. Just a slight heads up for now. There's a base model with a front engine, and here we have an all-wheel drive version with a rear motor. The battery is of course located in the vehicle's floor. 2 different battery sizes are offered. So, a subtle hint of Porsche curves at the front, and the roofline in the style of a slightly scaled down Panamera, indeed. Now, sticking to all those cliches, we've got these slightly British looking taillights here. I apologize for the car not being fully polished. It rained heavily until just before shooting the video, and we're on a pretty tight schedule. That's why the car couldn't be washed anymore, unfortunately. Next time, you'll get a clean car again, promised. The ORA line is shown on the back, sender GWM, for Great Wall Motors, the parent brand. The rear. The tailgate opens electrically depending on the configuration. The GT here has the electric control with a sensor too. And we notice actually we don't have a large tailgate, which acts as a synonym for the not so spacious trunk space. The precise trunk capacity data is not yet available to us. But here we're actually looking at a relatively shallow trunk space. I would estimate that it's roughly around 380 liters in volume. Rear seat backrest splits folds forward under dual level cargo floor. There's hardly any additional storage space. We've got a charging cable in here and then just the tire fit system. And that's pretty much it. The trunk lining is of high quality since it goes all the way up here to the sides with the carpet material. So no plastics that easily get scratched up here. It does give off a rather good impression. Let's head to the car for a fitting. The The elegantly designed frameless doors complement the coupe-like shape, meaning the windows don't have a frame at the top, adding sleekness to the design. The wheelbase of the Oranal 7 measures precisely 2.87 meters, so it's indeed a really long car. And back here, we find quite generous legroom. I'm 1.92 meters tall, not exactly short, with the driver's seat adjusted for my height. The passenger seat has been reclined just a little bit further back. And there's really a lot of legroom here. However, feet don't fit that well under the front seat, and as a tall person, I do have to angle my legs quite a bit, but it's not as bad as in other electric cars. So, there are worse things. Up to 1.80 meters, you're sitting comfortably here. Given the roof shape, the headroom is really quite generous for me, but again, adequate up to 1.80 meters. Two significant factors are at play here. We have this particularly double-glazed roof. The glass, you see, is actually a little bit thinner than metal, adorned with a roof fungus. This naturally creates space, and as we've seen, it's a small hatch, which has the advantage that the hinges are positioned further back. A big hatch would end about here, but if there were hinges in there, they would naturally also affect the headroom. Additionally, it's evident that the car, which was indeed designed for the Chinese market, places extreme importance on the space in the front. There are longer car models available here, including the BMW 5 Series, the Audi Q2, and others. The trunk space isn't often regarded as a significant concern in this market, so the vehicle's overall length is primarily about maximizing the interior space instead. There are many different colors available for selection. Here we have a car featuring a brown interior. We'll switch to a black interior for driving later. There are air vents here for the front passengers, and they're also fitted with high quality here. Everything's very sturdy. Yes, indeed, it's made out of plastic, but doesn't feel flimsy or cheap in the slightest. Additionally, there's a USB-C and a USB-A plug here to power devices. Up front, you will sit quite high, yet still comfortably on the seats with integrated headrests, ensuring a pleasant driving experience. But they're still not quite true sports seats, as we've got some decent lateral support around the back area. The seat is just a bit too short for my personal taste. However, when considering it from the perspective of the average person, it's deemed perfectly adequate and suitable. Electric adjustment is provided for the seats, and the steering wheel can be sufficiently adjusted in both height and reach, ensuring enhanced driving comfort. The armrest features a side-opening storage space, so all can access it equally. Then there's a cup holder and a raised center console. That's for styling reasons. I quite like it, actually. Here, another VW Group product or former Group product is mentioned. For those who are deeply familiar with the exclusive realm of hypercars, one might spot a very subtle nod to the iconic Bugatti Chiron in this particular design. What's really quite pleasant in these days is the notable reduction of overwhelming digital information without actually missing anything. Of course, we've got a large display on the center console here as well. That's also a touchscreen monitor, you see. I can configure the vehicle settings, like electrically extending the rear spoiler, quite conveniently. This can then also be done automatically in performance mode. I can very easily configure the innovative 360-degree camera right here, turn it on and off, or also then set up the driving assistance systems right in these settings exactly how I prefer it to suit my needs. Lane keeping assist, an adaptive cruise control, and of course everything is on board. And here, the vehicle settings inside, driver's seat position and stuff, so adjust everything. So, we have several different apps here. Obviously, we'll have both the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto options available in the European version of the vehicle. I can control the air conditioning from here and the navigation system. We're here in China right now, can't test it out in detail just yet. And I said, yes, I can control the air conditioning from here, but I can also just use this dial, for instance, to adjust the fan intensity or set the temperature right here. Then the climate menu opens, and then I can also switch the steering wheel heating on and off right here. The drive modes, I can adjust them right here. There's a GT model which we're in, then up to the Sport Plus mode, various settings, but also an Eco mode, and it's all accompanied by such sounds. So here, I find it wonderfully analog. And what I also like is that the digital instruments aren't just a display like with everyone else. but we have beautifully shaped tubes with displays. In the middle, the speed display and also the information on driver assistance. Then, on the left side, we see the battery level. We are currently at 81% charge, 433 km range. And on the right-hand side display, I can configure a variety of details. And for that purpose, you have to click on this specific symbol here. And then, by utilizing the dial, I can, for instance, bring up the onboard computer's data, energy flow, and the current consumption right here. And it all feels nicely integrated. The steering wheel buttons are physical buttons, not just touch areas where I have to wait for some sort of feedback. All of that works quite well, and then there's this Sport Plus driving mode with race sound, activated right here on the steering wheel. So, the normal modes here and the Sport Plus mode on the steering wheel. Also included is a head-up display. Depending on the equipment, it projects its information directly onto the windshield. The workmanship here is really good. It is made of faux leather complemented by stitching, and it all feels quite solid and reliable. Put together and very tightly screwed, absolutely nothing at all rattles or creaks. And what here seems to feel quite like metal, or possibly plastic, I personally think, is indeed actually high-quality plastic. Everything here is of quite nice quality. We can now proceed to take the URA 07 for a few test runs. For that, we're switching to another car, which is ready on the dynamic testing track. And that's where we're heading now. We are sitting in the sporty flagship model of the series, the ORA 07 GT. Let's see what it's truly capable of. The car is in Sport Plus mode, and ahead of us we have a very long and wide straight. The front wheels are searching for some grip, but we're on damp asphalt. It rained overnight. It races ahead, reaching 0 to 100 km/h in just 4.5 seconds. The 07 GT features dual motors, meaning all-wheel drive, with each providing 150 kilobytes or 204 HP per axle, resulting in a combined system power of 300 kW or 408 HP. The battery is an 83 kilowatt large NMC battery, and according to the WLTP standard, it's supposed to provide a range of approximately 520 kilometers. This is based on a consumption of 17.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. 180 km/h is the top speed. We can't test that today here on the test track, but if you max it out, the range will obviously shrink, no doubt about that. Here it's evident that the steering is nicely calibrated, it's quite direct. The car weighs just over 2.1 tons, you really can't tell from the outside. Of course, you notice it in the curves quite clearly. We're not dealing with a lightweight here, but the suspension and steering really do harmonize well. The steering wheel is noticeably smaller than in the URA 03, which was once known as the Funky Cat. I did indeed say I find it quite somewhat large in that car. Here I can direct the car well with the steering wheel, and the throttle response is quite nice. It's not so brutal either, you know. You don't get kicked in the back, it's a rather smooth, linear power deployment. Still as impressively athletic as one might anticipate when making the decision upon a sporty top model within the rapidly evolving electric vehicle market. So it's a pretty good balance, a really nice mix. The overview is clear. We have relatively slim A-pillars, and right here on the twisty test track here in Baoding, China, where we're allowed to drive the car with the German configuration. So the entire setup that we are using here, it's already perfectly tailored for the German market. Everything here works very well. The GT is the top model. Then there's also a variant with front-wheel drive and 150 kilowatts, 204 HP up front. Then the torque is halved as well. Instead of 680, just 340 Newton meters. And then there's the Pro Plus model with the exact same battery capacity. And then we've got two additional variants called Pure and Pro. They differ in their features, and they have a 64 kilowatt battery. It's an LFP battery, lithium iron phosphate. So it has a different cell chemistry than the larger battery. Both batteries are not yet from the almost in-house company S-Volt, but are supplied by Qatar. I can imagine that there will definitely be a change in the future within the corporate structure. So, the first test ride reveals that the URA 07, at least as a GT, can indeed be moved quite dynamically. What he can do in everyday life, we will try out back home in Germany later on. But this initial impression, it truly sets the tone. But as mentioned, of course, you can clearly tell we're not handling a lightweight athlete, but a heavyweight electric sedan. That was the first brief driving impression of the new GWM ORA 07, hardware you can count on with GWM, as the 03 already demonstrated. First impressions certainly do suggest a major, quite a very significant step forward with the new software. And the interplay of both components fits quite well. Additionally, I personally like the interior ambiance a lot. It really isn't as over-digitalized as it is in many other vehicles. The design is quite quirky. But as I said earlier, I appreciate that the car doesn't come off as aggressive as many others do. And with that, the 07 is naturally a valuable addition to the car market and not just the typical Me Too product. Everyone wants to somehow look like a Model 3 or others, and he's kind of going his own way here. Beginning from mid-year, the URA 07 model will arrive at GWM dealerships in Germany. That's the primary difference between us and our competitors from China, that Great Wall Motor indeed relies on an importer with a traditional dealer network through a free email. That means I can go to the dealership, configure the car, talk to the sales consultant, and then just purchase it. You don't have to do all that in the online configurator without any personal contact. Regarding the prices, there's no accurate information available at the time this video is being made. The ORA 03 model still begins at a base list price of exactly €38,190, which certainly makes it somewhat expensive. There have been various sales promotions and leasing offers in the past. I do indeed think it's not entirely incorrect to state that the basic version, well known as Pure, of the Model 07, featuring front-wheel drive and boasting 150 kW, starts at somewhere around €42,000. The GT model, of course, will be significantly more expensive and is likely to easily break the 50,000 mark. For that, you get a car with good space, if you're not too tall, with headroom in the back, and, at least from what it seems here, decent performance. Where improvements are necessary for the European market is clearly the charging speed at fast chargers. Because anyone buying a sedan now, an electric sedan, wants to do so perhaps to drive longer distances. And of course, there's a clear disadvantage here compared to a VW ID.7 or especially to the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Thank you for tuning in to this first drive review. More on the URA 07 is, of course, available on the website Autonotizen.de. I'll link that in the video description. Additionally, you'll find the link there to all electric cars and also the link to the playlist with all cars from China I've had the privilege to present. I'm looking forward to your comments and opinions on the car, the design, the brand, your questions. I'll read everything and respond to most of it. Thanks for joining me here in distant Baoding, China, to participate in our first drive review of the GWM ORA 07. Thanks to Andy for filming, and see you soon. Ciao.